Good morning. Welcome to Jasiri and happy Monday. We're starting the week with two conversations that may be happening in very different spaces, but they're both raising important questions about power, about accountability, and whose voices matter. First, we'll take a closer look at the global controversy surrounding Grok, the AI chat box that has sparked backlash across several countries, from concerns about misinformation and harmful content to growing calls for regulation. This debate goes beyond tech. It touches on responsibility, on free expression, and how powerful tools are shaping public conversation around the world. And then we'll bring the conversation home to Makoko, where fresh demolitions have once again left families uncertain about their future. So we'll be examining what's happening on the ground, the human cost of these actions, and the broader questions around urban development, housing, and most importantly, the rights of vulnerable communities. Two big issues, one morning, and as always on Jasiri, we'll break them down with context, clarity, and the voices that matter. But very quickly, I have to ask this. Tolu, have you recovered?
I've not recovered.
Every weekend, though.
I have not recovered. As you see me right now, I'm 1 foot here and 1 foot back at home in my room somewhere. I've not recovered.
So it's one thing to have a party. When every of the guests have gone, it is you that deal with
it. What do they call it? Eku or something?
Eku.
But thank you, ladies. My lady showed up for me. My friend showed up for me.
We don't love Tolu as much as we love our husband.
Tolu, yes.
That's a fact. Man.
That is a fact.
You know, they told me that I should bring out a very good husband. I'll bring my sister's husband. I'll bring Tolu's husband.
They are not perfect.
There are two men that I know that they don't deserve their wives don't deserve them.
What is the meaning of this, Lolo?
Tolu and my sister, the same bad character, but awesome men.
Awesome men.
You agree with her?
No.
After you ate amala,
I did.
Listen, and you want us to do it.
Because of Tolu, I said I don't do it. My Friday was clear for once. It was a clear weekend.
I saw Tati enter cloth twice.
See?
I wanted to disgrace MC. I just said, let me just eat 2 spoons. It was my dress that ate the rest.
You feel like crying.
Don't worry, we had an awesome time. Don't worry, awesome time.
Nothing like a Balugu party.
Mom, happy birthday,
Mommy. There's nothing like a Balugu party.
Oh, fantastic woman. Okay. You know the kind of woman you aspire to be.
Yes.
She has
my mother-in-law is amazing. You know I said.
I'm not even watching you. I'm not watching.
I said it is radio days.
That's why they look the woman. She came table to table. I was just looking. Happy birthday, ma. Congrats. I couldn't speak Yoruba, it was paining me. So I had to stay with English.
English is not the mafia.
Congratulations.
She will be speaking French to her, no?
Mr. Timmy came to me and said, Timmy, come. Your mother. Wow. He said, have you seen my
70?
He said, have you seen my
She's looking. She's so well. I said, this one no be. I said, now 40 years we can celebrate with 30 years experience. Because I don't know how else I can call that one mommy.
I'm still recovering, but we thank God. We thank you guys. Thank you to everyone who came out to celebrate.
And I know this conversation is particularly happy. Tolu will be very happy because she and Grok,
from the get-go.
So let's get into it. Let's get into our first conversation. Because I feel like, what's the girl in Greek mythology that was warning about one of the gods? It'll come to me, Cassandra. Maybe it was Cassandra. One of the girls in Greek mythology who was a prophet. And everybody kept telling her, no. And then her prophecy came to be. That's how I'm feeling right now. So now we turn our attention to a global tech dilemma that's sparking outrage and serious scrutiny from regulators around the world. The European Commission has described some of the latest outputs from Grok, that's the artificial intelligence chatbot, developed by Elon Musk's XAI and integrated into the social platform X as, quote, appalling and disgusting. Regulators say users have been able to generate and share explicit, sexualized, deepfake images, including troubling depictions involving children. Child sex abuse material, that's what we're talking about, using a new image editing feature. Now, the EU says this kind of content is illegal and has no place anywhere, and officials are now seriously investigating Grok's safeguards and compliance with digital safety laws. This controversy raises broad questions about AI safety, content moderation, platform responsibility, and how far innovation should go when harmful material can be produced at scale. With investigations underway in Europe and calls for action from regulators in the UK and beyond, the debate sits right at the intersection of technology, ethics, law, and human rights. Joining us now is News Central Senior International Correspondent Afia Hagen. Afia, good morning to you.
Good morning. I missed out my invite to this party.
I was sending it by night post.
Yes.
Maybe you'll get it today.
Afia, we want you to visit us, Nigeria. I would love
I need to take Afia to correct Owambe.
Yes.
She has enough boo-boos,
Yes.
you know?
Owambe.
We do the boo-boo shopping together.
Owambe loading.
All right,
please.
Afia.
I'm waiting for my invite, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us again, because this is a very important conversation we're having. So Afia, let's start from the very beginning. We've seen how Grok has been used in Nigeria in ways that have sparked outrage, especially involving two of our superstars, both female, Ira Star and Bloody Civilian, where a generated image of them was just not pleasant at all. So from a European perspective, what exactly has gone wrong with Grok in the EU? And why did it raise, such alarm that they are saying that this content does not fit anywhere?
Well, Grok has continued in this same vein, and this came from this viral trend, quite a viral trend actually, which was put her in a bikini. And basically, people would upload images to X and ask Grok to put the image of that person in a bikini. Now, this was happening to lots of images across the website, and of course, some of them were people, children who were under the age of 16, who didn't have any consent for the pictures, first of all, to be on that platform, and second of all, for people to put them in a bikini. That's basically underage porn being made by Grok in this instance. It's sexual violence, it's image-based abuse, and it also raises those questions about child protection, right? We should have zero tolerance for something like this happening, and happening on such a wide scale. It also exposes the systemic risk within the platform. With Grok, you can ask it to do pretty much anything. So something like this went viral very, very easily, even though it was absolutely wrong. And then, of course, you've got the regulatory liability. That's under the Digital Services Act for very large online platforms like X. Now, Europe's outrage in this instance is about the distribution of it. How an AI tool can generate such content and a platform can amplify it, how it can be out there on such a large scale. That's what lots of people on the app and of course European leaders are very, very angry about.
All right, so let's stay with the European leaders. How have they responded so far, Afia? What tone are we hearing from the regulators? Is it cautious? Are they furious, or are they determined to make an example?
I think it's determined with flashes of fury. So European leadership, the language has been very blunt about this. They're framing this as a dignity and child safety issue, which of course it is, or rather than it being a tech controversy. They're going from the moral angle rather than, I suppose, the legal or big business angle. Now, Ursula von der Leyen is reported to have said that she was absolutely appalled that this was happening, and stressed that the EU won't outsource child protection and consent to platforms, that has to be brought home. Now, institutionally, the European Commission has paired that tone with the processes and the power. They put in formal information requests to Grok. They want compliance, security under that Digital Services Act that I spoke about earlier. And most importantly, they want evidence-based presentation that Grok will change its ways. They want evidence that this will happen. They want X to keep the evidence that they've changed this for a year so they can make sure that they are complying to that Digital Services Act that applies across Europe. So it's not just about making angry statements, it's about accountability and, of course, leveling pressure against X to do the right thing and make sure that Grok is not able to continue making these images.
So I'm curious because it's really not necessarily like the first time particularly, but we see that in the past few months, this AI Grok conversation has quite exploded. Why do you think this particular misuse of generative AI has triggered such a strong and possibly like coordinated regulatory reaction across Europe and even beyond?
I think because this particular breach crosses 3 red lines, right? And the first red line is about clear harm, clear victims, and low ambiguity. It's very clear to see what's happening here, right? You have pictures of sometimes underage people, but also people of my age and your age who have not consented to themselves being pictured in a bikini. So that's clear harm, clear victims. There's nothing ambiguous about that at all. The second red line is the system scale and speed. So this trend happened very, very quickly. It went viral very, very quickly. And although Elon Musk said that he wasn't aware of this happening, I find that very hard to believe because you just had to open the app and there it was. There were so many pictures of it right there. Like I said, low ambiguity. It was just right there in front of us. And they also wanted to use this, I think, as a test case for a new regulatory regime. So that Digital Services Act that the EU have in place is designed for exactly this kind of breach, exactly this kind of thing happening. So they can say that this breaches certain parts of the Act, and therefore we can reel you in. So I think those 3 red lines were crossed. They were very specific. And that means that Europe and the European Commission could come down very hard on X.
Afia, on January the 8th of 2026, the European Union ordered X to preserve all internal Grok-related documents and data, warning it would enforce the Digital Services Act if all the safeguards fail. What does this evidence preservation order tell us about how seriously the regulators are treating this particular case, or is it just routine or a clear escalation of how problematic they consider this act going?
And do we trust Elon Musk to keep the evidence?
And this is, I think, really the cusp of this issue. Regulators are worried that some of this evidence potentially may be destroyed. They're basically saying we might need to litigate this, so don't delete anything. They want to examine the internal decision making that came with this thing being even available on Grok in the first place. Why was Grok even allowed to do this, right? So where was the decision making? They want to see the documents behind that. They want to see the risk assessments, the incident response to this, the algorithms and the amplification of those algorithms that allowed that to happen. They are clearly worried about evidence disappearing, which is why they've said to them, make sure that you do not destroy anything. And we may find a situation where we come back to sue you if, under the Digital Services Act, you haven't done everything by the book. And in fact, you have put in place things like making something like this go viral in place that hasn't been regulated properly. There's definitely concerns that evidence will be destroyed, and that's why they have said to X, make sure that you keep absolutely everything.
All right, so Afia, the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and other EU officials have strongly condemned the spread of sexualized and childlike deepfakes. They insist that child protection and consent cannot be outsourced to tech companies. So what does responsibility actually look like here? And what concrete safeguards should generative AI developers be required to build in without killing innovation?
Yeah, it's about having that responsibility without killing innovation, like you so rightly said, and that is really important to developers, right? So it's about building in friction, it's about building in consent protection, which is really important, and it's about building in audibility by default. So you can audit something as it's happening rather than after the fact, rather than get to the point where we have a scandal, which is where we are now. So you're going to have things like hard blocks for non-consensual nudify images, right? You're going to have stronger detection, upload and output for nudity, for something that could be offensive. You've got to have easier ways to escalate this to the platform if it happens. You need to have better child safety, better rate limits, better traceability to be able to follow through when things like this happen. You need to have controls on the platform if an image like this does get there, that it doesn't get distributed far and wide like lots of these images did, that they don't go viral. And then you've got to have transparency. So independent people can look into what a platform like this is doing and assess for themselves, look, perhaps this isn't right. We need to put something in place so this doesn't happen. You need to have all these different elements in place.
You know, something I'm interested in is always about who is in the room, because I saw a meme this weekend and it talked about what's supposedly, use the word, supposedly women do with something like Grok or AI chat boxes, asking for a diet or asking for cooking recipes or skincare. Men, help me undress, put in a bikini. And it just sort of makes you wonder when, as you said it slightly, when people are doing these chat boxes, who is in the room? Who is at the table? So we're not just talking about men and women. There's also the conversation around vulnerable communities and even people of color, because we also have the AIs and the chat boxes that are being trained on white male gazes. And so that's a whole part of this conversation we tend not to get into. Are you worried about that? Because how would Grok be able to undress if Grok was not given the power to undress? It never should have had, there should have been those safeguards in place before Grok even came out.
I think that's something that we absolutely should be worried about, because when you are building something like a Grok or ChatGPT or whatever, when you're building these platforms, when you're using AI, we do put in our suggestions. So like you so rightly said, Tolu, why was Grok able to do this in the first place? Because that suggestion was put in. And so yes, what other suggestions have been put in from the white male gaze that you spoke about, and how might that affect vulnerable communities, communities of color, women, the disabled? How might a search engine that has been built on a certain gaze affect other people? And I think that is something that we should be worried about. Yes, you know, we have to be worried about seeing things like deepfakes and of course things like this bikini trend, but we also have to be worried about how AI might affect vulnerable communities and what suggestions are being put into an AI that might create content that can be harmful to certain communities. That is something that we should be very concerned about. And I think the Digital Standards Agency in Europe needs to make sure that they are across that they are thinking about those things as well when it comes to regulatory systems. Yes, we absolutely need to have things in place to make sure that we cannot have images of children in bikinis, but also make sure we are protecting other vulnerable communities as well from content that can be generated and go viral that can be offensive.
This conversation is about more than one platform or one product. It's about responsibility in the age of artificial intelligence. Recent developments around Grok, the AI tool integrated into X, have raised serious concerns globally. European Union regulators have described some of the content generated through the tool as disturbing and unacceptable, triggering investigations and renewed calls for stronger oversight of AI systems. But X's owner, Elon Musk, has been pushing back against these accusations, even though they're weighty, and criticism. Afia Hagen, our senior international correspondent, is still with us, and we're breaking down what is going on. Now, Afia, Elon Musk has pushed back publicly, saying he is not aware of Grok's generating illegal content and insisting the bot is designed to refuse such requests. How convincing are these denials, especially when weighed against the mounting reports and regulatory concerns over deepfake misuse?
I mean, these arguments, especially Elon Musk's argument that he wasn't aware that this is happening and that Grok can't do things are illegal, it's not convincing at all because, first of all, like I said, when you open X, you just have to open it for a couple of minutes and you could quite easily find these images. So does he not go on his own platform? We know that he does because he's dropping X's all the time. He's saying things all the time on the platform. And then Grok is not designed to do anything illegal, but it has done in this case. There's no ambiguity around that. It's absolutely there in front of your eyes for you to see. Unless, like Elon Musk, you're absolutely just choosing not to see it. So there's been multiple investigations as well as anecdotes which have showed that this was clearly happening. So you can observe this, it's absolutely the reality. So I think that Elon Musk's claims that, number one, he didn't know this was happening, he wasn't aware, and number two, Grok is designed not to do anything illegal, are not convincing, and they don't stand up.
Ask her question, just because even just Googling Grok right now, you'll see the mountain of articles and action that's happening. A woman named Ashley St. Clair, who is the mother of one of Elon Musk's several children, is suing XAI over Grok deepfakes of, I think, her or the child. But then more interestingly is a report from the BBC, which X says they're going to stop Grok AI from addressing images of real people after backlash. So it makes you wonder if they're saying, because the statement itself says, we have implemented technological measures to prevent the Grok account from allowing the editing of images of real people in revealing clothes, reads and announcements from X. So if X was even acknowledging that they know this is an issue, then Elon Musk comes to say, oh, I have not seen it. So what are you telling us? Because it just makes it seem either you are not in control or someone is not in control and the guardrails are off the train and we're just on this free fall. Because it's just really amazing when I saw Elon Musk's statement and said, I've not seen, I've seen. Again, we mentioned ISTAR, we mentioned Bloody Civilian here in Nigeria. It's the fact that people are using it even for children. Kat.
All right, so Afia, let's continue beyond the EU now, beyond the European countries. Let's take a look at countries like Indonesia and Malaysia, who have already responded, some by blocking Grok and others by opening investigations. So what's the global mood right now when it comes to Grok? Is everyone's patience wearing thin?
I think, yes, we are getting to a point where patience is wearing thin. You mentioned Malaysia and Indonesia. They have moved to block Grok and take legal action. And they are doing that because they are citing these obscene, offensive images and the content of them and human dignity concerns. Now, reporting shows that enforcement is difficult and it's messy, and users can still access Grok and X using VPNs and using different workarounds. So governments are also learning that these blocks that they might have in place are not durable, they are not the solution, and they need something more. Here in the UK, Ofcom has opened a formal investigation into X under the Online Safety Act, and they are saying, we've seen this movie, we're not doing another year of voluntary promises. So they need something really far more concrete from X to guarantee people's online safety.
You know, just to sort of play devil's advocate, is Grok really the main problem? Because there are growing reports of similar AI misuse on platforms like Snapchat, Instagram, and Facebook. We hear about community standards all the time. I see some videos and I'm wondering, where's the standard, in fact? But are we unfairly singling out Grok, or is this a much wider ecosystem failure and Grok is maybe the first domino in what we hope will be a domino effect?
I think definitely Grok is the first domino. This is not the only platform or not the only AI chatbot on the platform that has a problem. I mean, there's so much AI-generated content on across platforms. On YouTube, for instance, 55% of videos you will see on there are AI-generated content. There's so much of it around, so therefore there's going to be a lot of misuse of it as well. I think what's happening with Grok and X is it's being used as a test case for regulators, for the Digital Safety Act, for the Online Safety Act in Europe, and the Online Safety Act here in the UK, as a test case so regulators can say, this is what went wrong, this is what we're going to do about it. And so they can perhaps roll that out to other platforms, other parts of social media, and also other parts of AI to show that they have some control over it. And actually, you know, you cannot just do anything you want online. So yes, I think this is a widespread problem across platforms, and Grok is being used as the test case.
Now, with different countries reacting in different ways, because now we're going to be taking lessons away from this now. What lessons does this patchwork of, you know, global responses offer for the future of AI governance? Because the new, you know, it's not new, but it's a technology that a lot of us are just, you know, coming to grasp with beyond just asking questions. Now it's doing a lot more. And how can international cooperation be strengthened to deal with AI harms that don't respect borders? Yeah. Because if Elon Musk is saying, I'm not aware, I don't know, this is happening, what does this portend for the future?
Well, you're right in saying that AI is relatively new. I mean, the first version of ChatGPT, was out in 2022, so it's not that long ago, really. And AI is still evolving every single day. So I think what we're seeing from this patchwork global response, first of all, is that countries are realizing that even if they put a ban on X that bans a forest, that people can get random VPNs and other ways. They're also learning that you need investigations, you need evidence to make sure that due process is really happening. So you can target governance, data, and accountability, and not just access. I think also countries are converging on this shared principle, finally, that consent and child safety are non-negotiables. Even if you enforce it different ways across the board, those principles about consent and child safety are non-negotiables, as it should be. Now, I think what would strengthen the international cooperation is shared definitions across the board about what the consent and the child safety non-negotiables look like. So childlike deepfake, synthetic sexual abuse. Let's make sure that all of these terms are across online safety acts across the board so we can act accordingly. We can get together with you know, cross-border evidence and make sure you put those legal pathways in place. You can have baseline standards for social media apps all across the board. And you can make sure that when these things happen, that they're reported swiftly and quickly.
All right, let's look ahead for a bit. Are we truly prepared for where AI is taking us? Because with tools like Sora and increasingly realistic AI content, that's harder to detect these days. The UN and others are calling for global rules. Do you think we're moving fast enough, or are we already playing catch-up?
Oh, we're definitely playing catch-up when it comes to AI. We're definitely not moving fast enough in terms of regulation around what AI can do. And AI is advancing all the time, and we are not advancing quick enough to keep up with that. The law is behind in terms of protecting us from what AI can do and can do every single day. So definitely we are not fast enough, we're not catching up enough. But also the regulators behind AI, I feel like they almost want us to be ahead of the game because we might put laws and things and slap things down before they've even had a chance to manifest or come to be. But we need to be ahead of the game, and we need regulators to take it more seriously, that we need to be across everything that AI is capable of.
Wow, thank you so much, Afia. This is a conversation that we will continue to follow as it develops. Now we need to take you know, the next thing on Jasiri. Thank you so much, Afia, for staying with us.
Thank you.
Wow, very interesting conversation we've had about this Grok.
I want to talk about it, but we have somebody else waiting.
We have somebody else waiting. Now it's time for us to move on in our discussion. Now we're going to the demolitions in Makoko that have raised, you know, difficult questions about housing rights, urban planning, and the responsibility of the government. After the break, we will unpack what happened, what the law says, and what the residents are demanding now. So stay with us because this is very hot on the burner.
Residents of Nigeria's iconic floating community have once again found themselves in the eye of a storm. The people of Makoko are urgently calling on authorities to halt ongoing demolitions. They say the exercise has displaced thousands, leaving families with no place to sleep or work amid a widening crisis in the waterfront settlement. News Central's Ibalani Omani visited the community and takes us through what's happening.
Here on the third mainland bridge, which gives us a perfect view of the ongoing demolition that is going on around the Makoko area of Lagos State. Just across this water body, we can testify that so many of the structures that were previously erected across this area have now been brought to rubble. Last week, News Central tried to gain entrance into the community, but we could not.
On the second attempt, the community youth finally let us in. What we found wasn't just rubble, but displaced people, young and old, their homes reduced to splintered wood, personal belongings scattered across the mud and lagoon. Scavengers dug through the wreckage, retrieving what they could after talks with residents. While government cites urban renewal plans as a reason for the demolition, residents maintain that their homes were taken far beyond the agreed upon limits.
Dédé ni pé gọ́ọ̀mẹ̀ntì ó pè wá pé wọ́n fẹ́ ṣiṣẹ́ ní ọ̀dọ̀ power line, wọ́n fẹ́ gba 50 meter àbí 30 meter because ìgbà tí gọ́ọ̀mẹ̀ntì ti bá wa sọ̀rọ̀ a kọ̀ fún gọ́ọ̀mẹ̀ntì. Dédé ni pé wọ́n wá kó àwọn irinṣẹ́ tó máa ṣiṣẹ́ pé kó wá wó ilé wa.
Lẹ́yìn 50 meter wọ́n á lọ sọ bá ọ̀rọ̀ ẹ̀ òkì ọ̀nà wá síbẹ̀. Wọ́n ní 100 meter ló ń fẹ́ gbà because láti powerline dé sí ó sì ju 100 meter lọ because àmọ́ kan tó fẹ́ ṣe rẹ̀ tó bá yẹ kan tó fẹ́ ṣe rẹ̀ ni tó sọ fún wa ká mọ̀ wẹ́fẹ́wẹ́ kó wà ní kó fún wa ní time pé ẹ bá kọ́ ìlú àbí báyìí báyìí àwọn ṣẹ́tàgà tó ń ṣe àwọn èèyàn ti kú.
Èmi sì ọmọ mi ẹyọ kan ló ń kú ní bí ìjà yìí ṣe bẹ̀rẹ̀ ọmọ mi ẹyọ kan ló kú kódà gan mi ò tí ì rí owó tí mo máa fi travel ọmọ ẹyọ kan tó kú lọ́wọ́ mi lélẹ̀.
By the water's edge, children splash and play football, trying to laugh, but for their parents, smiles thin under the weight of uncertainty. Some ferry mud to scraps of land by canoe. Others have nowhere at all. Where will we sleep tonight? Echoed through the flattened parts.
Àwa sùn sínú ọkọ̀ pẹ̀lú àwọn ọmọ òtútù ń mú àwọn ọmọ. Ó ti pa wá ó ti lé wa kúrò ṣùgbọ́n a máa lọlé wa àtàjà ń bímọ gbogbo ègbò.
Many here say fishing was their lifeline. Now it's gone, and with it, the death of loved ones. Efforts to reach authorities have failed, and residents describe the devastation and confusion as lives unravel.
Àti lọ sókè ọ̀n dá wa lóhùn ọ̀n sọ anything because a fẹ́ kí gọ́ọ̀mẹ̀ntì kó jọ kó rẹ́pù wa ó ní pé àlọ́bá tọmọ rí Ajagunbalẹ̀ wọ́n lọ bá Òkì ó ní pé sẹ́gẹ́tì gọ́ọ̀mẹ̀ntì òun ló lọ bá for now gọ́vùnà gan ò tí yọjú sí wa.
Ṣé wọ́n fẹ́ ká jalè ni àbí kí ló fẹ́ ká ṣe àwọn leaders wa ta ní ìgbọ̀nsẹ̀ pípọ̀ náà ti kọ́lé sí Badagry tó ti ralẹ̀ àwa tá à ní help tá à ní strength for that lè fi kọ́lé sí Badagry àmọ́ ibi tá a fẹ́ ságbà ṣé wọ́n fẹ́ ká máa sún abẹ́ bridge ni àbí kí ló fẹ́ ká máa ṣe tear gas èyí inú ni tear gas bí mẹ́rin ó kú jẹ́ kí kú sínú tear gas yẹn.
I feel like as a government, if you're going to break something down, you should build something up. You know, I feel like they just displaced a lot of people who already didn't have much anyway, which is very disheartening. But, you know, I pray for the people of Makoko, and I hope that things change for the better.
Despite protests, for now, Makoko displaced residents wait, asking not just for land, but for a chance at shelter and dignity. In Lagos, for News Central, Ibalani Omani.
Known as a historic waterfront settlement built on stilts beneath the Third Mainland Bridge, is now at the center of a controversial demolition exercise that has displaced tens of thousands of Nigerians, sparking protests, human rights concerns, and fears of a looming humanitarian crisis, with residents crying out over the loss of their homes, livelihoods, schools, and health facilities. Yes, there are schools and health facilities in what you are seeing. there are allegations that these demolitions have gone far beyond agreed safety setbacks without compensation or resettlement. Right now, the question on the lips of many Nigerians is whether urban development can ever be just and humane. News Central's Ibalani Omani joins us now. I don't even know if we're going to get through these questions because Lolo is already brimming on one side, and there's a lot we were talking about. But we're back here again. We were here when Governor Fashola did this, I think, around 2012. Yeah. Even then, it was not as extensive as what we have seen now. This is an extensive demolition. I saw videos of tear gas being fired, and there's some reports of some deaths. But I think one of the first things we need to establish in this second time of this, maybe not second, and yet another installation of demolitions in Makoko is, where did this particular one start from?
Well, you see, I think the very first time I encountered the word Makoko, or even came across people in Makoko, was when President Tinubu was still the governor of Lagos State. And I was trying so much then to interact with one of the persons, and I wanted to speak the language so bad so that I can communicate with them as a journalist, you know, to infiltrate. And I just went, I may not talk about Governor Bola Tinubu and it was like, what are you saying?
Yeah, because I was just telling Captain, a lot of people don't know that there's still a different It's not Yoruba.
It's a bit,
it's like a mixture.
It's like a Badagry, Awori.
So there's a different language they speak in the Makoko community.
It's a mix of different settlements, and even the name Makoko, a lot of people are asking, oh, how many people are even there? We have over 1 million people there.
Wow.
Yes, aided from the name Makoko, you know, literal conversation which says peak Akoko. Akoko is like a leaf. Yeah. It's a fertility leaf. So, and it grows easily around them there. So it's 8 fertility. So they multiply as fast as possible. So we have over 1 million people in that slum.
Estimated, because remember that they still have not been successful in doing a census.
So we have over 1 million people in that place. But the conversation has always been around how they live. When I posted this story on my social media, a lot of people are saying, oh, the government is messing up. This could be the Venice of Africa, because, you know, Venice in Italy is like a floating community. But a lot of things have changed. And we know that Babatunde Raja Fashola, when he was the governor of Lagos State back in 2012, actually, you know, went on this demolition as well, noting that these people need to upscale to the urban renewal settlement plan of Lagos State. But it didn't even do as much as this. So this just started about 3 months ago. And it's not the first. So a lot of people are saying, what's peculiar about Makoko? Jakande was demolished. Jakande was demolished.
Yes, we covered the landmark demolitions. Shoki, we covered that as well.
So what's peculiar about it?
Balani, you know, I'm looking at it because I've personally been to Makoko more than 4 times since all these things, not since all these things started in the past, you know, just for humanitarian purposes. And I know that the price of relocation or resettlement or replanning in an urban setting must come with pain and tears and a lot of uncertainties. No, I'm even looking at it, I'm wondering now, okay, what is the most humane way to have done this? A lot of people will say before government would proceed with the demolition, they must have given the people notice. I know that the government knows this is a high-profile, not high-profile people, but this is a place that the focus of the world is. So I doubt if they will not follow due process. But maybe, I'm suspecting that maybe some of their leaders, because I saw one of them allude to the fact that all their leaders are not here, they are in Badagry. So that means some of them are aware that this is coming, and they probably did not pass it down.
There's certainly information gap or communication gap is obvious, because when we got in, at first they didn't even let News Central get in until we had some conversation with the youth. We were trying to help, we were trying to do this, and they wanted even money. Yes, at some point.
To help tell their story.
It's a commercialized community. If you want to do anything in Makoko, you pay. It's
like that in a lot of Lagos.
But this slum is quite peculiar. If you want to come in, people run NGOs, that you pay for everything. It's proper conversation of money. So the people there are saying we didn't get any notice. But some aged among them are saying they actually told some people
some elders. But those elders are not living amongst them. Just as one of them noted, these elders are living in Badagry, Ekpe, which is where most of them also migrated from. And I think there was also some resettlement plan across board during the demolition back then in 2012 that they moved some of them to these areas like Badagry and Ekpe. But some still remain here, not only because they could not sustain the life over there, it's just that life here is easy. See, you don't need so much. I remember some of our reporters have gone there to do story on water, water hygiene, how do they dispose their waste, environmental issues, so many things. I know my reporter who went there some time back came back so sick just by doing a story for 2 days. And these are the concerns I think the Lagos State government is also looking into. However, there are also conversations and rumors around, they're trying to turn the place to these estates,
upscale, luxury. I've heard the word luxury and luxurious in this conversation.
Some have been tagged, some property owners have been tagged to these the ongoing demolition.
But whether we like it or not, should we not be considering the human angle in this story? Because a lot of times when resettlement and relocations are done, I'm looking at the people in this settlement. Do they not think that
they deserve better lives?
They deserve a better life? Because I have been there. You cannot tell me with the amount of NGO work that is being done. I know schools we've gone there for schools, we've gone there for children, we've gone there for medical outreaches before, and I know that these people are not better off, and they are in the heart of Yaba, in the very centralized outskirts. And any small pandemic, it becomes an epidemic because of how they are living. Do the people not think of it as something that can advance them?
I don't think so.
Pause. Let's take a break. We'll answer that question and then, of course, give you more details about this ongoing demolition and the controversy surrounding it. Stay with us. So just a few more details on this ongoing situation. So starting around January 5th, 2026, armed teams began tearing down homes, schools, and churches in Makoko and the surrounding communities. There's also a coalition of rights groups, including the Radical Agenda movement in the Nigerian bar, that has accused the Lagos State government of violating a valid and subsisting judgment from the Federal High Court here in Lagos. There's a court case that's centered around an agreement regarding a 30-meter safety setback from high-tension power lines. That was also part of what former Governor Fashola said in 2012 when there were demolitions then. Residents claim the government has breached this agreement, extending the demolition to 100 meters and beyond. We know that hundreds of families have now been left homeless, with many forced to live in canoes, churches, and even open spaces. And the official position is, while residents accuse the government of unauthorized, brutal actions, some officials have stated that the area is considered dangerous, unhygienic, and that the removals are necessary for safety and urban renewal. Lolo asked you a question in terms of even the residents of Makoko, do they, whether it's a resettlement or they stay there and they renew the space and they change it for them, do they not believe or seem to believe that they deserve to live in a better situation?
I think I'll start with what's the average literacy level of the people occupying that place. The truth is, education just started coming in from NGOs and a lot of things recently. So I would say I'm not expecting any change, mental change, basically, from the crop of youth we have there now. It's the next generation. If you resettle, for me, my own opinion, if you resettle these people to land, I feel it's even going to be worse. Because how do they take care of the environment where they are? How do they dispose waste? They are used to the normal routine. I've heard stories. I've even seen some, we just open the wood and, let it go into the water.
And the water current carries it.
And everything goes on like that. So if they are on land, moreover, you want to relocate 1 million people, over 1 million people to land. Where? In Lagos. The Badagry they want to relocate, they are hoping they relocate some of them to. It's pretty much occupied as well.
And then you're going to have a problem with finding. It's the where and the how and the how much.
Yes, and so even if you want to talk about compensation as well, as you said, I want to believe.
Are they legal?
Exactly.
Because when we're talking about compensation, we have to know
need to be able to prove
the government wants to demolish my house. Do I have a CFO?
You see, for now you get CFO on water.
On water.
So for now they are moved from where they are.
No, they have not moved. Some of them have refused.
They're pushing back.
Okay, so
they didn't move. They're sleeping there. They sleep on the
because
canoes.
their fear is that if they physically move, that is
done.
it.
They know that.
They fear and they believe and they know, I'm sure, that if they move themselves physically, it's over.
So what do you think? What do you make of it? How do you, if you're supposed to permutate and make sense of all of this, what do you think is going to happen? Because you were there, you saw firsthand how the situation is, and then they themselves, they don't want to move because everyone just, you know, it's street thinking. I'm not going to move, even if they tell us to move, they must tell us where we're moving to. How do you think this is going to play out?
I actually feel if it was to be done right, there's going to be a sweet pain sort of situation.
Yeah.
The truth is, it won't pay everybody. I feel they can face it out.
Yeah.
Obviously, let's speak fact. The information government gave them was 30 meters. It's marked by a flag from the power line. There's a flag that marks 30 meters, yes, to the power line. We have a drone shot of that. Also, they now said after some time they're going to take 100 meters. There's another flag marking 100 meters to the power line.
Oh.
Now, aside those two flags, if you see across the community, there are various other flags that have now been placed aside the agreement, moving further into the community. And that's where the challenge is. So if it was just the 100 meters, they are fine. They are not ready to leave. They are okay.
They don't mind.
They don't mind. They keep. They are replicating. They don't mind.
There's one question I have to ask because there were reports that I told you I saw the videos of the tear gas being used, of people trying to grab their children. There are reports that maybe 5 people died.
Yeah.
What did the community members tell you about deaths or injuries?
Like the woman, one of the women I interviewed, she had 2.
She said one of the
children died.
In this demolition.
During this demolition, one of the aged women, they said she had 2 grandkids. A husband, she had 2 children as well. That one of them lost their grandchildren. They can't even find. So not even that is there. They can't find the child during
under the rubble.
Yes, under the rubble or somewhere, or maybe in the water or something. So they can't even say this is where the child is. And at least reported cases of about 2 or 3 from their community youth representatives when we met them that some people have actually died. Now, aside people dying, occupation is gone. I'm wondering, is it even safe for, because predominantly the fishes we eat in Lagos State come from that place. Now that's where they fish, they garnish it for us, they smoke it and they sell it to you and I from that same water body where, you know, they do their business and everything like that. Even if that place is upgraded, I still feel it's going to come back to what it is now. Because there needs to be some sort of mental shift for them to be able to say, okay, this is the way I want to live. They are okay with the...
No matter how dire,
they are okay.
I can fish.
Yes, I can fish.
It is theirs.
They've been there for over 200 years, according to them. So
19th century.
Yeah, so they're just okay with this life.
So we cannot, if we're trying to understand it,
you can't. The perspective is different.
I know that.
You have to keep that thing, please. We'll talk to me off air.
Yeah,
we have to wrap up now.
Thank you so much for coming on, Jasiri, and shedding more light on this. This is what we have for you today, because this is how we wrap up 2 very important conversations this morning on Jasiri from Makoko. We've seen how demolitions affect real lives, families, livelihoods, and a community's sense of security, and why accountability, planning, and protection for vulnerable communities must be at the heart of urban development. And then on Grok AI, we've explored the global debate around artificial intelligence, deepfakes, and the responsibility of tech companies and governments in keeping people safe while fostering innovation. These stories remind us that whether it's policy, tech, or human rights, the decisions made at the top have a real impact on everyday lives. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. Stay informed, stay engaged. We'll be back with more conversations, insights, and voices that matter tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Bye.